1998's Ring is about a woman named Ryuko Asakawa, a reporter looking into the death of her niece and 4 of her friends. Eventually, her research leads her to a cabin that the friends were staying at, and here is where she finds a cursed videotape created by Sadako, the vengeful spirit of a girl murdered underneath this very cabin. Upon watching the tape, Ryuko is now in a race against time. Albeit a short one. If you don't beat the curse within 7 days, Sadako comes to kill you. And luckily for her, she evaded death like, maybe 2 days in? She made a copy of the tape for Ryuji, her ex who's helping her with the investigation. We then watch as the two uncover the tale of Sadako Yamamura, a girl with supernatural powers who was thrown down the well and left there to die. One thing I love about this movie is the character of Sadako. Compared to the horror I watch, which is certainly not supernatural ghost movies, this was a really nice change from brutal slashers. Which I love, don't get me wrong, but a change is nice sometimes. And I also thought she was a really interesting character with a backstory I want to learn more of. And thankfully we had a prequel movie Birthday which delivers just that. Ryuko and her son Yoichi were also fun to watch. I genuinely cared about them. And though I knew Ryuko was in the clear since the moment she made Ryuji a copy of the tape, things were still tense because, well, Yoichi watched it too. So little man's gonna get screwed over as well if they don't do something. I was on the fence about Ryuji, but I ended up disliking him at one point, when they had an argument about how maybe they'd all be better off dead. At the time I was thinking, man, that's pretty harsh. Even your son? That little boy be better off dead? Yeah. And then at one point when he smacks her in the face, I get that in that moment it was like a, hey, get a hold of yourself thing, but it still seemed uncalled for. And also, the thing with Yoichi and how he's like, maybe we'd all be better off dead. I won't spoil anything, but that line is elaborated on in Spiral, so all I'll say is, he's not saying like, man, that little shit Yoichi, you're better off someone killed his ass. The acting was great by everyone involved. I got nothing to complain about. And though I don't have any real opinions on Yoichi's performance, he didn't suck. Which is a plus for any movie with a kid as a prominent character. The effects were cool as well. This isn't a slasher or anything, and the deaths are really simple, but things like seeing Sadako's corpse fall apart or watching her crawl out of the TV looked really awesome. I will say though, this isn't a con. I didn't think this movie was as scary as people made it out to be. Maybe it's because I went into this with a clear understanding of the rules and how the curse works, and when you know the rules that the killer follows, you know not to worry during scenes where they try to make you feel something. I don't know, but it was still a lot of fun, and I loved every second of it. In the end, I'd rate 1998's Ring a solid 9 out of 10. It's a great supernatural thriller that I think a lot of horror fans gotta check out. Spiral is a sequel to Ring, which came out at the exact same time and followed a man named Ando. He lost his kid because he drowned. He does an autopsy on Ryuji from the first movie, finds a note in his throat that has a code in it that spells out present, and he also meets Mai and bangs her. Nice. He also gives her an STD. He gives her the Sadako virus, which I guess can be given through sex. So yeah. Sadako's in this, so that's nice. Except, in her first scene, she's completely naked and molesting Ando, and in every other scene, she's either human Sadako or literally just a clone of Mai Takano. It's... everything about this movie was weird and I didn't like it. Well, it wasn't the worst movie, but out of the movies I've seen so far, it's the worst Ring movie. When it comes to characters, I liked seeing Mai and Ryuji again. I wasn't a fan of how they killed off Riko and Yoichi, and as for the main guy Ando, he was okay, I guess. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't great. Heck, I enjoyed Ryuji a lot more in this, and he has way less screen time. When it comes to Sadako, she was a joke, but they worked really closely with Koji Suzuki on this, and he's the author of the books, so I feel like this is a very accurate depiction, but I didn't like it. I'm all for defending an artist's right to want their art to be how they want it. For example, with the Chucky movies, when it's like, oh, Don Mancini's ruining it, it's like, shut up, it's his character. With this, it's like, I'm not gonna shit on you and say you're ruining it, or you did this and you did that, but in my opinion, I just didn't like it. It was just so jarring. It was so different from the first movie, and not in a good way. I'm all for change, but this one, it was just, anything and everything was different, and it was so weird. And after shit like the iconic TV scene in the first movie and seeing her kick Ryuji's ass, I don't know, I didn't like the sexualized molestery Sadako. I really don't have much to say about this, but at one point when I was watching it, I got so bored that I just stopped. I walked away for a few hours. So yeah, clearly it failed at keeping me engaged. I can see why this is the forgotten sequel. It was pretty boring and downright laughable at times. However, a good chunk of it, right up until Sadako's introduced, isn't the most painful. It's still really different, but it's not the worst. But then, when naked Sadako popped up, that just kind of ruined it. Well, it made it worse. That one instance didn't just like automatically just ruin the entire movie. I'd rate this movie a 5 out of 10. It's not the worst movie ever. It's not great, but it's okay. So it gets a meh rating, and even then I kind of feel like 5 is too high. But like the first 40 to 50 minutes were actually not bad, so I can't punish the entire movie. I'll put it like this, don't go into this movie if you're like, oh wow, I really love the first movie, I know I'm gonna love this, or I'm gonna really enjoy this. They're nothing alike. Nothing. If you just like change Sadako's name, I think there's enough different about it that you might be able to see similarities, but you wouldn't go, this is just the ring. Personally, this one just wasn't for me. But there you have it, that's been my thoughts on Rasen or Spiral. Unlike Spiral, the first sequel, 1999's Ring 2 follows the events of the first film, and picks up right around where we left off. We followed Takano. She was seen briefly in the first movie, but here she's the main character, and now she's working to uncover the truth about what happened to Ryuji, and where Ryuko and Yoichi are. Every now and then we're also shown what's going on with one of Ryuko's scumbag co-workers, as he tries to pick up the cursed videotape case she was working on, and gets someone killed in the process. Along the way, we're reunited with Ryuko and Yoichi, and learn that Yoichi's suffering from Sadako's curse, much like Masumi, who also makes an appearance here. Now, the curse our badass little friend is dealing with isn't the typical 7 days thing. Instead, what he's suffering from caused him to project the tape onto nearby TVs. And unlike Masumi, or at least not that we're shown, Yoichi's got the ability to use the Force. And after we say goodbye to Ryuko, Takano takes it into her own hands to help Yoichi rid himself of Sadako's curse. When it comes to the characters, I started off uninterested in Takano, just wanted to see Ryuko again, but as the movie went on, I really got behind her, and though Ryuko's my favorite, I had a lot of fun watching Takano, and Yoichi, he's just his cool little self, nothing new to say about him. I also like the stuff with Mr. Yamamura, the grumpy old man from the inn. We saw him briefly at the start of the movie, and then never again until the last half hour. Actually, I almost forgot he was in it. Now in the first movie, when it came to the effects, the only thing worth commenting on was the amazing TV scene where Sadako crawled out of it. In this, we don't really get anything cool or special, however, we do gotta talk about something. That something being the face they made for Sadako. So in this movie we actually see Sadako's face, but only because she's projecting herself wearing the face the morticians attempted to reconstruct. And in my opinion it looks awful. She looked like an ugly puppet, and though I don't think it was supposed to be realistic, it still took me out of the moment because of how ugly it was. And one more con, I absolutely just hate how they shot, spoiler, but you're watching a review of an old movie, but anyway, I hate how they did Ryuko's death. She was the main character of the last movie, and someone who, a lot of fans I'm assuming, me at least, was really looking forward to seeing in the sequel. And that was not a crime to kill off a main character. I thought the way this was done, it didn't work, it fell flat. So it showed her run into the street, and then it implied an impact with a vehicle. Then we get this vision, and then the aftermath with bad looking blood. I don't know, it was more strange than sad, and I didn't like it. It was stupid. Ryuko is a great character, and then her death was just whatever the hell that was. Ring's real birthday takes place 30 years in the past, just days before Sadako would find herself at the bottom of the well. We watch her, this disliked, awkward, supernaturally gifted girl just trying to do what she enjoys, acting. And along the way we watch as she develops feelings for a member of the drama troupe. I wrote in the review that, for some reason, I don't know if it's explained, but anyway, the reporter lady is crazy. This reporter lady is crazy about tracking her down and killing her. I guess I didn't pick up on this, and looking back on it, even if it didn't come right out and say it in the subtitles, I should have understood it. I was watching somebody else's review, and they pointed out that the reason the reporter wanted Sadako dead was because one of the people that Sadako killed during Shizuko's power display or performance thing, that was her partner. Husband, boyfriend, but yeah, I didn't pick up on that the first time. Like I say, looking back on it, should have been very obvious, even without the subtitles. So things don't end well because of that. Sadako, as she tries to perform in the play, gets tormented when the reporter has the students sabotage it, so she has to listen to the speaker play a tape from her mother's public power demonstration, where her evil side killed a man, that man being the reporter's partner. This causes chaos, and she accidentally kills a man, leading to a crowd chasing down this poor innocent girl and beating her to death. Yeah, that sucked. And because I didn't mention it already, there's a good Sadako, which is just her normal self, and then the evil, supernatural part, that's a separate entity. Anyway, the angry mob then goes to Dr. Akuma's home, hopeful to find the evil side of Sadako. But when both sides are reunited, because they brought her body for some reason, Sadako awakens, and after trying to flee, transforms in one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. I'm not even joking, this was like a superhero putting on the cape for the first time. This scene just had me smiling. I was really looking forward to her killing these people. They did a great job making you give a shit about the bad guy. From this point on, Sadako kills the mob after getting drugged by Akuma after luring into a false sense of security. He attacks her and sends her to the bottom of the well, where she gets sealed in one of the saddest scenes in the series. When it comes to the acting, I don't typically come away from a movie thinking about it. Usually people are either acceptable to the point of their acting just being considered normal acting, or they're bad. But the performance by Yuki Nakama as Sadako was amazing. And it may also help that this is the first time we ever see or hear Sadako, a character who was already very sympathetic. Anytime Sadako was happy, I was happy. And God, when she was screaming or crying. Also worth mentioning, because I watched this by timeline, in Spiral, Sadako does appear, and we do hear her and shit. I didn't, at the time of recording this, I haven't written out the review for Spiral, but it's not good. As for characters, I did like some of them, like Sadako's love interest, who I don't recall the name of. It was T something. Tayama? Maybe? And I did actually enjoy seeing Dr. Akuma and the type of person he was. Now, knowing nothing about him beforehand, just knowing that he's the guy who killed her, I'm like, okay, pretty scummy, you just killed your kid. Well, not his kid, stepkid, but whatever. But watching this, it's like, you understand why. It's still really messed up. I mean, like, bro, if you're gonna kill her, maybe don't throw her down a well and seal her there for 30 years. I disliked a lot of the side characters though, mostly due to the treatment or opinions of Sadako. I really sympathize with this character, so I'm not gonna have a fun time watching some clown-faced lady beat her with a club, or whatever that was. Or watching some scumbag reporter attempt hunting her down with a handgun. Granted, the reporter didn't know about them having... No, wait, she did. She knew there was 2 of them. Never mind, I was gonna make a case for the reporter. But she knew. She knew there was 2 of them. Yeah, no, she's a scumbag. When it comes to the effects, though this isn't impressive, crazy shit like the TV in the first film, one of my favorites in this movie was Sadako's transformation. Not much happens, but it was still awesome seeing the birth of Sadako, and I thought it looked really cool. When it comes to the kills, a lot were really simple or off-screen entirely, but this series focuses more on story. They're not known for crazy graphic kills and gore, or at least not in the original movies. I thought they were alright though, but I do wish we got to witness some characters' deaths, mainly the ones I disliked. And the poor love interest guy. I think his name is Tayama or something. I remember it sounded like Toyota. But God, his death. His last words were I love you and then just dead. She turned into a demon in front of you, man. Why you... No, get away. God, it was good. This was some good shit. I love this prequel far more than expected. Giving the number rating, I gotta give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's slightly better than 1999's Ring 2, just because of how much it made me feel. Each movie had its sad moment, like Ryuko holding Sadako's corpse or Sadako saying, "Why are you the only one saved?" before falling back into the well. But this movie was just full of those moments, especially towards the end, and especially the very last scene. I tried to go into all these movies with no spoilers, but sometimes I let my curiosity get the better of me, so I'll like Google it a bit. I just looked at images, and seeing the monster Sadakos with the spider legs, I didn't expect much going into this. Attempting to resurrect Sadako by finding her a vessel, a man livestreams his death, and from that point on, the curse is spread through the video of the livestream. The cursed video finds its way to the school where the main character Akane teaches, and after the death of one of the students, another one tries to find the tape. Eventually she's successful, and this causes Sadako to appear, which ain't good. Both in the literal sense, because Sadako is an evil spirit demon thing, and also, the scene looked worse than it did in like the 1998 movie, which is significantly older. When this happens, Akane runs in and she gets cursed, and later on we see it follow her home, resulting in her and her boyfriend making a run for it, and in turn, that results in him getting captured by Sadako, because in this movie she takes prisoners, I guess. Along with the help of a detective trying to get to the bottom of all the strange suicides, they go to the well, and thus ensues a good 20-minute long chase scene. If you watch my Spiral review, you'll know that I mentioned like, oh wow, this is so much different than the other one, and I don't like it. This is really different too, but something about the spider Sadakos, the swarm of them chasing her through like this abandoned mall, just was kind of fun to watch. She ends up tracking down a phone with her boyfriend in it and gets pulled in by Sadako, who seems to possess her before freeing them both. And then the movie ends. I liked Akane. She seemed like the perfect mix of Ryuko and Ryuji from the original movie. She was pretty likable too and you really cared about her. As for everyone else, they were okay I guess. No complaints, but no standouts. The effects on the other hand, The first scene of Sadako, like I mentioned already, coming out of the computer looked wrong. I won't say it was bad, but it looked wrong. And anytime glass broke, the CGI looked really fake, along with the CGI bird, moth, butterfly things. And they were seeing quite a bit. As for the Sadako monsters, though they weren't horrible, at times their movements felt really jerky and fake. They didn't look the most realistic, but they didn't take you out of the movie. They looked good and accomplished what they were there to do, which is just chase. I ended up having more fun with this movie than expected, and it even delivered a few good laughs. I'd rate 2012 Sadako 3D a 7 out of 10. It's a good movie, and considering the last movie in this timeline Spiral, this movie was leagues better. And it also helps because my expectations for Sadako were pretty low. I mean, in Spiral she was naked at one point, and she was also either in human form or as Mai. Like just a clone of Mai. I guess she gave birth to her clone, and it's weird. That movie's something else. But that movie allowed me to go into this one with the mindset of like, I'm not going to judge this too harshly on what they do with Sadako. I just want good enough. And the Spider Sadakos, they're their own thing, but the Sadako we get here is like the original one, so it's all good. 2013 Sadako 3D 2 was set 5 years after the events of Sadako 3D, and is about Akane and Takanori's child Nagi, who, due to the ending of the last movie, was born with a curse, and acts as a vessel for Sadako. That's the end of my recap. I like Nagi, and in my opinion, she's the best child actor in the series so far. Of course, that's only compared to Yoichi. Little Sadako never had any speaking parts, so she's really hard to judge. I really felt for her when she opened up to her Aunt Fuko about how she wasn't responsible for the deaths, how she can just see them, and how much she's scared. It's pretty sad watching her and her aunt cry together, just moments before she tried throwing her over a bridge. Granted, if you watch this movie, you think she's responsible for it, so yeah. Is tossing a child over a bridge and into a river a good thing? Maybe not, but you can understand why someone would think that. The kill count's pretty high in this movie. Fuko was another great character, and just like Nagi, her acting was really good. As for Akane, the main character from the last movie, I thought she was used horribly here. In my opinion, she should have honestly just died during childbirth like they said, but nope, she's alive, just hidden underground, unconscious. Essentially in this movie, it's like, okay, Akane, she's affected by Sadako. Nagi, she has the curse. Don't let them meet, cause they'll combine, and it'll all be super evil. But, I don't know. I like the movie, but like, I could have done without the Akane stuff. In this movie, Sadako works mostly from the shadows, or the mind really, operating through Nagi. I didn't mind this, but considering all the promotional stuff they did with these two Sadako 3D movies, where they blatantly show off the character of Sadako Yamamura, it would have been nice to actually see Sadako Yamamura. That goes for both movies, but mainly this one, because she's almost entirely absent. I still had fun with this movie though, and I gotta say again, the actress playing Nagi did a really great job. Her character was 5. And she didn't look much older, maybe 7 tops. That kid nailed this. And if I couldn't be watching Sadako, I'd rather be watching a Nagi movie. It was some good shit. In the end, just like the last movie, I'd rate Sadako 3D 2 a 7 out of 10. It was a great sequel to Sadako 3D, with that one only being just slightly better, due to the crazy finale with all the Sadakos. I don't know, I thought that was really fun. I'm sure that it helped that I watched this series by timeline, and so my expectations were different with these movies. But yeah. 2016 Sadako vs. Keiko is a crossover between Japan's 2 biggest horror icons, and sees 2 girls discover the haunted tape getting cursed by Sadako, and 1 girl moving in next door to Keiko's house. Let's address the biggest con that some people have, including professional critics. And yeah, I put that in quotes because you're just some dude with an opinion. I don't know how there's professional critics, but whatever. So, a lot of people complain about the movie taking too long for the 2 icons to meet and fight. They don't seem to realize there needs to be a story that connects them. There needs to be a reason for literally everything, including why a ghost from a haunted VHS tape would somehow make it to a ghost that's confined to an abandoned house that nobody lives in and actively avoids. They really gotta make those stories connect. And if you're getting a good story, that shit's not happening in the first 30 minutes. However, I do think they cross paths in a pretty odd way. So there's Yuri and Natsumi, who got cursed after discovering Sadako's tape, and there's a girl named Suzuka, who now lives next door to Keiko. You would think that maybe they would run into each other and come up with a plan to make the ghosts kill each other on their own, but no. During the Ring storyline, an exorcist gets called in, and out of the blue just goes, "I'll make the ghosts fight." We know what he means by ghosts, but the Yuri and Natsumi, that just came out of left field. I think the story could have benefited from him and his little kid butler not being in it, and if instead the girls met and worked to stop the curses together. That just made the most sense to me, and it also might have made the 2 stories connect a lot faster, but that's just my thoughts. Now, one con to this movie is the Ju-on stuff makes up a really small portion of the movie. Like I mentioned already, there's two storylines. The Ring one, where the girls get cursed and try to have Sadako exercise, and the storyline with Suzuka moving next door to Keiko's home. While other than one part that involved 4 kids going into Keiko's house and getting destroyed in a really fun series of kills, anytime we cut to the Ju-on stuff, it lasts really briefly, and usually wasn't anything more than a couple seconds of a dream sequence where it's like, oh look, I'm in Keiko's house. Poof, never mind, no I'm not. I get that if you enter you die, and so Suzuka couldn't go in it too early, but like I mentioned already, it would have been so much better if all 3 of the girls met and the stories emerged from there. That would have kept the Ju-on side of things alive, because this movie really feels like it's just a Ring movie with some Ju-on shit sprinkled in like a cameo. That stuff aside, I did enjoy what we got here, and I loved the fight when the 2 finally met. The thing about this movie is you need to go into it knowing that it's a Sadako vs Keiko movie, that it's the Ring versus Ju-on. It's not Freddy vs. Jalen. It's not Freddy vs. Jason or Alien vs. Predator, so don't expect any intense brawls, don't expect to see Keiko stabbing Sadako in the face, or Sadako using Toshio like a bat and beating Keiko to death. If you go into this looking for a crazy exciting slasher type movie, you're not gonna get it, and you're gonna be let down. This movie is very much made for fans of these 2 series. That's not to say someone else wouldn't enjoy it, but I think the people who are already fans of this are gonna have the most fun with it. In the end, I'd rate this movie a solid 8 out of 10. I might have thought I could have connected the stories a lot better, but that didn't stop me from having a great time watching. Sadako 2019 is about a doctor named Mayu Akikawa and her wannabe social media star brother, the fantastic Kazuma. They're your typical brother-sister characters, with Kazuma being extremely cringe and embarrassing, and Mayu being passionate about her work, but nothing else. Especially not passionate for women who might have a crush on her and go beyond innocent territory and start acting all stalkery. Their lives would change, and spoilers, come to an end in no time. After crossing paths with a little girl with no name. The girl was abused by her mother in an attempt to essentially recreate the events that created Sadako. She wanted her daughter to be Sadako, and quite like Akuma did to Sadako, the mother prepares to kill the girl. But unfortunately for her, Sadako's close by, and allows the girl to escape as she's killing the mom. The girl would then become infected with the curse, causing the woman to kill herself. Strange things to happen, like a sandbox sinkhole, and even having the ability to use the force. She's essentially Nagi 2.0. It's like the filmmakers took that character from the Spiral timeline and remade her, but better for this. The story would then see Kazuma wind up getting cursed while attempting to get views. And Mayu, although the 7 days were up and Kazuma should have been dead, heads off on a mission to save him. I like the characters in this. As mentioned already, the girl here is sort of like a Nagi 2.0, and having also read the spin-off manga before watching, I was all the more invested in her character. Mayu was a pretty good protagonist, not on the levels of Ryuko or Mai, more like whatever her name was from Sadako 3D 2, not Akane, the sister of Takanori, Fuko, that was her name. But she was better than her, actually. I also thought they did a great job with Kazuma. I didn't care for him all that much, and found him to be pretty stupid, but he felt like a real wannabe social media influencer. He was desperate for views and downright embarrassing at times. He was interesting to say the least. The movie also brought back Masumi, played by the same actress. And though I knew Masumi would be in this, the reveal of the stalker lady being Masumi was great, and made me like her even more since she was someone we watched in the first 2 Ring movies. I didn't like that her death was off screen though. I thought that was pretty dumb. Something that I loved about this movie is, although it wasn't spot on, they tried their best to give fans the originals a treat here and there, like the cursed videotape in one instance having the same screeching sound, as well as featuring similar imagery to the original. They also did a scene afterwards where Sadako slowly climbed out of the TV, and although this didn't look amazing, and I thought her nails really looked like shit, this was still really cool. Yes, there have been screen crawling scenes in most of these movies, but this one was way more similar to the original, and pretty fun to watch. And finally, the last thing I noticed was their attempt to Ryuji Mayu. At the end, when you think everything's okay, Sadako appears. We see her eye, and then the movie fades to black, and Mayu screaming and getting scared to death. I wasn't as much of a fan of this moment though, mainly because they showed way too much of Sadako's face and it looked kinda stupid. No offense to the actress, it just looked too normal. It wasn't scary and it just felt goofy. Just show us the eye, like they did in Sadako vs Keiko. Overall, I had a fun time with this, and I'd rate it an 8 out of 10, ranking it just below Sadako vs Keiko, and just above Sadako 3D. The latest installment of the Ringu series, Sadako DX, sees the curse evolve yet again, and this time you only have 24 hours. This installment is about a woman who's insanely smart, like crazy smart, geniusly, incredibly, magnificently smart. Did I mention she's smart? I know all the promo stuff sure did. So this girl, who also happens to be one of the funnest characters of the franchise, is brought onto TV where she and a man, exorcist maybe, talk about the urban legend of the killer videotape, said to be responsible for 39 or 49 kills that took place before the movie. She dismisses the ghost stuff and explains how it's possible the human body kills itself due to the stress, panic, already existing medical conditions, that type of thing. And when the show's done, the man, Kenshin, is like, "So, smart girl, wanna see proof of a curse? Check this tape. I got it in the mail." And so she takes it. Once home, the girl's sister watches it, and later we see her witness a man on the brink of suicide. She talks him down by giving him the cold hard facts that that lame fall might not kill you, and it's gonna hurt like hell if you survive. So he backs down, and they go inside where she watches Ken exercise him. This does nothing in reality, but when they see the cursed video has a new ending shot of Ken's home, the guy's like, "Sick! I won't die! My girlfriend's dead, but hey, today's awesome, am I right, guys?" Now him aside, the problem is, Smarty Pants' sister still watched it too. One thing leads to another, the mom watched it to save her daughter, Ken dies, and now Smarty Pants and Suicidal Boy work together to try to put an end to the curse. This eventually leads them to an old shrine. Temple something, I forget what they called it. And here we meet another guy, Germaphobe. He's been working off and on with them via Twitter and Zoom calls, but he's now face to face, and after Smarty sees him taking meds, her wheels start turning and she realizes that the only way to survive is to keep subjecting herself to the curse. Once her mom and sister shows up, we then see them along with her and Suicidal Boy group around a TV and watch the video. Once crazy shit starts going down, the curse leaves them alone, and the movie ends with the gang on a group call, prepared to watch it again. Now I will say I did think this was a good Sadako movie. Am I completely sure if it's better than Sadako 3D? I don't know. But what I do know is I didn't waste my time with this one. I do wish Sadako got more screen time, or cooler scenes at least. And also, I wasn't that big of a fan of her weird sped up spider crawl thing, or all the twitching, or the fact that when Sadako is around, it's usually in the form of a person the victim knows. I mean, the poster and some of the other promo stuff seem to imply we'd get a bunch of Sadakos. There's also the YouTube channel they made for this movie, where quite a few of the videos feature quite a number of Sadakos. And I mean, yeah, technically there are, I just wasn't expecting what we got. I was thinking this would sort of be like the ending to Rings, how Samara won in that movie and the curse is spread out everywhere. I was thinking this movie would essentially just be a kill people movie where everybody's screwed. I was wrong, not disappointed though. Oh yeah, and just because I don't know where else to put this, I really love the whole water drip transportation thing. That felt like some shit that should have been included in the Dead by Daylight DLC. A few times in the movie, Sadako's seen causing leaks that rain down and bring her into the room, and I just thought that was a really cool way of doing that, as opposed to, you know, the basic ghosty thing of appearing when you're not looking. I thought this was a pretty fun sequel. I really liked our main girl and even the suicidal guy. Him, not as much, but still. I thought Ken was pretty alright. I liked the occasional comedic stuff. They tried jump scares, they didn't really work. And in the end of the day, I gotta rate 2022 Sadako DX a 7 out of 10.
Looking for more horror fun?
You're goddamn right.
Then check out the VHS comic book series, a parody of the horror genre that follows the lives of 3 teens as they fight to survive a horror movie, where every day is loaded with blood, boobs, and buds. The first 2 issues can be found in the description below.
I was obsessed with the VHS.